and welcome to another narration, presented by yours truly, Cryptids Roost. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the arse of the subscription button as well. And remember to tap that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. I would like to reach out and say a huge thank you to those of you who have supported Cryptids Roost financially. We pray the good Lord replenishes you abundantly, and to those of you who will, later on. We pray the good Lord bless you as you do so. And also a huge thank you to everyone for always supporting the channel with your likes, comments and shares as well. It's all very much appreciated. God bless you all. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. We are fast approaching 500 subscribers. To celebrate this milestone, we will be running a competition when we hit it. The competition will be open to everyone. Details on this will be available closer to the time. In the span of 20 years, I died twice. Part 3. This awesome series is written by TheShadyPear, a wonderful author over on Reddit. And if you would like to read more of their works, the Reddit link to their profile will be below in the description. This is always shrouded in mist. It covers the whole city like a thick blanket. That added to the scenery around makes it look more of a Halloween nightmare than any of the places I described before. It's no wonder it gets people talking and inventing rumours. It might be strange to know there are ghost stories in hell of all places, mainly because, as I said before, we already know where you'll go when you die, and it's just another birthing bulb. But there's this one story about this. I've told you before that Styx is located underground. Well, this isn't. It sits on the surface directly above us and connects to us through a couple of tunnels that slant and spiral upwards and end within a couple of hours of walking. It's so close that you won't be crossing Gehenna expanses while travelling between the two. The only reason why they're considered separate places instead of different levels of the same city is, as far as I can assume, because of the travel guides. You see, there's a thing about each settlement of damned only having one guide at a time. When the current guide dies, a new one is appointed within a few years, but that's about it. A bit of a weird tradition if you ask me, but oh well. Styx's guide is Donovan, but Dis has not had a guide for decades. The story goes that they killed the last one, and now no one in Dis can get out and live. That bit is at least true, just because what happens if you rush off outside and into Gehenna without knowing the safer routes. The crazy part of the story though is that the killed guide's phantom still wanders through the city, sleepless and pale like death itself, called upon by the damned drowning in their bulbs. She retrieves them and takes them as her toll. They also say that if you hear her voice, she'll lure you into Gehenna's empty expanses to disappear. I'd call bullshit on that, but thing is, now she's outside the window. Hike! Someone shut this bitch's mouth! We did bring the pair of loonies from Malva along with us, as promised. On the way back through Gehenna, the man fell and didn't move anymore, so we only took his ropes and left him for the wastes to claim. Only the old woman remained. She was going to die soon though. Large pustules appeared on her stomach and chest, and I looked so bad and obviously infected that I don't think even the most stupid person would attempt to eat her body later. She couldn't really speak with a gag in her mouth, but she'd been biting down on it so hard that it came loose enough for her to make noise. I clenched my own teeth while trying to shut her up. I'm not even sure if Dis's denizens knew we existed anymore. The paths from sticks to here all led to basements or sewer crates, but those paths have been blocked from our side and have been for a long while. We had to reopen one for this trip and then push the crate aside to pass. The initial idea was to just push the old woman through and be done with it, but she started getting louder before we left, and some idiot panicked about supposedly seeing raiders coming. And long story short, we ended up stuck hiding inside of an empty building for the time being, right glued to a birth site. Dis's birth sites are disgusting. Our Yggdrasil trees aren't pretty to start with, but in Dis they grow more like roots than trees. I'm not sure if they are even roots or something else, but whatever it is that they are, they spread on the ground and climb the external walls of buildings, in grains like putrid veins, birthing bulbs blistering from them at random and making it look like the very city was infected by a plague. The ghost was outside the window, if it was a ghost. I couldn't see her face from that angle, and she was really the palest I've ever seen, with long white hair flowing down her back and a laurel of dead leaves on her head. But she was definitely solid, because I can faintly hear the window glass creak and her nails tapping while she went up the wall, using the roots and indents between bricks as footholds, and climbing almost vertically. It was a bizarre sight. I watched from the corner of said window while she perched on the sill, reaching towards a particularly small bulb. There weren't bulbs that small in sticks. Whenever we went to the birth sites to retrieve bark or meat, if we saw a small bulb forming, we shot at or speared it till it ripped. Never let it fill with liquid enough for anything to grow within. It's one of the few rules I agree with, and I don't know how the Sheol creeps managed otherwise. This is no place for kids. But while Styx had no kids because we prevented their coming, Dis had no kids because they let them drown. I looked away then. With this being where we are, there's not much choice on what to eat, but it took a special brand of sicko to go after those tiny bulbs. The sound of the placenta ripping and water spilling was followed by a baby's cry, then a gloomy silence as the crying cut off. I tried not to think of it while stepping back, but right when I did, the old woman from Malva escaped her ropes and darted outside, hollering and shrieking as her gag came loose. In the moment it took me to look at her and then back, the white thing by the window disappeared too. This was bad news. I forgot to even worry about dying in itself, too worried about dying in Dis of all things. The city you die in is the city you'll be reborn at. If you die in Dis you'll belong. It doesn't matter where you came from before, which is why bringing the Marvel woman here seemed like a good idea at first, yet here I was too. I watched and waited along with everyone else. I got some sleep at least, but my feet grew cold and my stomach grew hungry. The most impatient people started making their way back towards the crate, in teams of 2 or 3 at random intervals. They didn't come back, but I didn't know if that's because they got caught, or if they reached the passage and were on their way back to Styx already. Not much went on for the rest of the day. It was still raining outside, the sky a deep thunderous grey pouring down. Along with the mist, it makes it hard to see anything in front of your hands, but the time passing made me wonder if anything for the weather to clear was a bad idea. That's why, when a moment later I glimpsed people in the corner of my eyes, my first instinct was to grab the first thing I saw, a bottle, and flatten myself against the wall, hoping the shadows around would hide me and my improvised weapon enough to strike first. The damned over here were, I think feral is a close enough word. Styx denizens were mostly around my level, in that while you can't really call anyone a good person, there's still some sort of moral standards we don't cross, as low as those standards may be. These people did not have that. They were locked within their city's perimeter, and have been for a long while, so outside resources and trading were not a thing in their repertoire. As far as they understood, if you wanted something, you just took it. There was no sense of law or government that I knew of. Likelihood was if you were born here, you'd be attacked and eaten alive before ever dying of natural causes. There seemed to be at least 3 groups of them now, all wearing typical tanned leathers. Half of the folk here walked around consistently naked, while the other half, who'd been alive the longest, wore the spoils of their past hunts. One group looked a little more put together though. It was a smaller group with clothes that actually looked like clothes instead of being pieces thrown and stitched haphazardly, and sharper and larger weapons on hand. They were basically hunting down the others instead of just fighting. Raiders. I cursed in my head and started scooting close to the door, with my back still pressed against the wall. Inch by inch, it was painfully slow, but I wanted to stay unnoticed for as long as possible. That until someone got too close for comfort and my bottle slammed down on his head. No choice but to join the fray then, and the fact I was wearing stuff made of actual fabric turned me into a beacon in the crowd. Well, my bottle was broken now too. Much more effective as a weapon like that. Ash! Rhiannon! The thing about fighting for your life is it's much less tactical than movies lead you to believe. You don't get to think much while you're at it, or I know I didn't, at least. Just swing and punch and push and kick and try not to be murdered. And when you're outnumbered, you can miss things happening. Like I missed a duo coming from behind and dragging me down and out, their grip like steel clamps on my arms. I struggled and squirmed as they took me downstairs, but my captors didn't even stumble. Either they were multiple times stronger or I had the strength of an ant, and I didn't like either option. That the one you wanted, boss? This room had much less people for now. I counted half a dozen raiders, including the 2 holding me, and tried to ignore the fact there were more trickling in behind us. Some dragging limp bodies along, and then there was that woman sitting across from us, the white one. Yes, that's him. She walked silently towards us, no hurry at all, cradling a bundle in her arms. I could see her face now. Part of me felt some sort of relief that the thing I'd seen before was not in fact a ghost, but most of me knew my current predicament wasn't all that much better, and not even one bit less uncomfortable. I knew it as soon as her face turned and her eyes locked into mine. I also saw the baby in her arms, wrapped in a cloth and alive, feeding like babies do with their own mother. It was the most surreal crap I've got to see, and I'd seen plenty of shit up to that point. Anyway, both my bottle and wide eyes were graciously ignored so they could laugh at my hanging mouth instead. Hello Alex, it's been a while, hasn't it? I was pretty sure this was not a spectral apparition case by now, but she still gave me an off feeling. Her eyes were strange. Way too pale, grey, but with a dullness to them like their colour had been sun damaged. They reminded me of glass beads. Do I know you? You really don't remember. It's not every day you meet someone via finding them dying on the ground. I froze, blinking like a dumbass. Death is common in here, and you become desensitised to it after a while. Dying's only worthy of note in the realm of living, and I couldn't recall finding anyone who was dying during my time there, since no one gave a damn when I died via being shot, unless she met me via finding my already cooling dead body that should narrow it down to my first life-threatening experience, the car accident. Now I know I wasn't in the clearest mental state by that time, but I remember the lady who called the ambulance and stayed with me. She was black, chubby with wiry greying hair up in a bun that made me think of my mum. She was not some dainty albino who looked like a porcelain doll. Maybe this woman was with the paramedics or hospital staff instead. That'd be possible. Since I can't remember much of them or the ambulance trip, I felt dizzy. "You still don't remember me," she said in response to my silence, more of a statement than a question. I shook my head. "Well, I'm Lucy. Nice to meet you again." I stared at her. She stared at me. Ash and Rhiannon weren't holding me prisoner anymore, but they were still standing behind me, and my arms had fallen asleep from that earlier grabbing. The awkwardness was going to kill me before they did. My dizziness increased. "That yours?" I asked, dumbly pointing at the baby. My brain lagged. Okay, and blocked the memory of her climbing the wall of a building like an alien spider and ripping it out of that birthing bulb. "I think now she is," she mused after a short pause. "Come on, you shouldn't stay here." She spoke while already turning on her heels and heading back to the entrance, as if I was not a dude holding a sharp broken bottle and she just expected me to go with her, no questions asked. And I did. I followed behind her while her back was turned and stepped out in the open street into the rain. Not a single thought in my head. Gehenna awaits. Don't forget, if you enjoyed that story, be sure to pop over to the author's Reddit profile and drop them a line, or even give them a glowing review. I'm sure they really would appreciate it. The link to their Reddit profile will be below in the description. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to tap the notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. Oh, and don't forget to share the video far and wide. This will all help with YouTube's algorithm and will help to promote this channel more. And don't forget to check out the merch store. The link will be in the description and also in the video thumbnail. And if you would like an honourable mention, send in a snapshot of yourself with your purchase and I'll feature it in one of the videos. I now have my very own subreddit community where you can submit any stories you've written. You can submit your stories or encounters either there or send them to cryptidsroost@gmail.com. If you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. All the links are below. I also have a Facebook group, Twitter, Reddit, and you'll also find me on Discord. If you would like to support this channel and help make it grow, my PayPal is paypal.me/cryptidsroost. Again, that will also be below. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.